I'm Mark Smith with Macroscopic Solutions. We are ready to fire up our Macropod MacroBox. Alright, so first steps that we're going to do is go ahead, we're going to power on our stack shot. When the screen opens, what I'll do is I'll just take a video of this as well. You're going to be at a standard screen. I'm going to ship this so that maybe it's actually at the XYZ scanning screen already for recipients. But just in case it's at the standard preset, I'm going to put it back there and then show you what we need to do in order to adjust it back into its right place. So, if it did come standard, it came in a standard stacking mode, auto step, single axis stacking mode. So the screen looks something like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press on the hammer and the wrench, and I'm going to select mode. Now I'm going to select stacking. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be stacking and XYZ scanning. So that's going to bring me over to the XYZ scanning screen. Now what we need to do is actually set up our axes. Our x-axis is going to be our focus stacking. Right now the camera is actually quite close to where the stage is. So what I want to do is I actually want to bring that back quite a bit. So I'm going to hold the downward arrow on the controls while my camera moves back. It's going to take a bit of time. And what I'm also going to be doing for this demonstration, because I don't want to take an enormous photo, I just want to take a demonstrative photo, is I do want a pretty good working distance between the front of the camera and where my sample is going to be. So I'm just going to keep on coming back. It's actually a pretty good amount right there. I'm probably shooting for about the 30 centimeter range, if I can do that. At 30 centimeters, then that means I'm getting a pretty good wide field of view between each image as I stack. Okay, so now what we need to do, now that we have enough clearance, is actually move forward with grabbing our sample. So let's do that. Again, the samples we're going to be using are some butterflies that were given to us, or at least loaned to us, by UConn's Museum of Natural History. What we're going to be doing, we're going to remove the glass here, place this to the side, and we're going to position our sample on the holder. For us to work on grabbing an image. Now that my sample's on there, I can also see where my lights are, and I want them in a little bit of a better location than where they currently are. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of reposition things here. Okay. It took me a minute to get them in the right place. I had to think about it for a little bit. Basically what I'm trying to do is, because the insects are subset, they're deep in the box, I don't want the camera to move over here to the left and then have that edge block the light coming from my left flash head. So I need to position everything so that the light from both flashes is basically contacting the samples all throughout the sample. So that's just something to pay attention to. So if you notice, I have one light up here, the upper, like above the camera and off to the left, then I have one below the camera and down to the right. That way I should have lights that sort of cover everywhere where they need to be. Okay. The other thing I wanted to do, and the main reason why I wanted to move these flashes back, I wanted to move the flashes a little bit towards the rear because I might want to actually move the camera back a little bit more on this. That way I can capture a larger field of view. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so that's all set up. Let me just go ahead and actually tilt the camera so you can see a little bit more clearly. Alright, I've removed my lens cap. Now what we're going to do is turn our camera on. Now when we shoot the camera, it's going to be in manual mode. However, when we're setting up our shot, it's going to be in automatic mode. So you don't necessarily need to turn the flash on yet, but I am going to just go ahead and turn the flash on to power on the transmitter, power on each receiver. I'm going to need to go on the other side for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn the camera into automatic mode. So now we're in auto, and this is going to give us the ability to see what we're seeing. When I turned the camera on, it opened automatically EOS utility for me. So what's nice now is now that everything is open, I can go to live view shoot. Live view is going to give me exactly what you think, a live view of what it is that I'm seeing. So what I'm going to do is just adjust the focus so we can see what it is that we need to see. And now I'm going to begin to move some of the camera into position. We also want a rough idea about what our distance is currently. So I'm just going to take some measuring tape, look down to basically where the pins are. It looks like we're at about 35 centimeters. So that's what we're going to be shooting at today. Okay, so everybody's going to take a look at the chart. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up a new window. Desktop 3. I shared the table that everybody is going to have. Okay, here they are. So right here, the very first section is our RF 100. That's what we're shooting with, and right now we're at a 35 centimeter focal distance. So I can actually program some of these numbers now. I can go in, I can go to my x-axis. I'm going to be shooting normally at f8. I recommend everybody shoot at f8, but today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to shoot at f11 to just speed up the process. So that gives me an auto distance of 9.6 millimeters. That means that the camera is going to move closer to the sample and further away from the sample in 9.6 millimeter intervals. That's how long our focal distance is, and it's going to allow us to focus stack more images. Okay, so I'm going to press the x-axis, I'm going to press on the x distance, and I'm going to enter that value. I'm going to enter 9.6 millimeters. Now I'm going to go back home, and now I'm going to do the same for the y-axis. So the y-axis is over here, the value is already pre-calculated for you. If you remember, these values were calculated based on the information I provided in the prior video. So it's good that you understand how these are made just in case you want to modify the working distance. So let's say you're not at 35 or 30 or 25, you're more like 27. The numbers are going to be close, but not exact. So you can still calculate these values depending on your focal length as you wish. So the y-axis, we're at 6.612 millimeters. And for the z-axis, which is our up-down, we're going to be 4.408 millimeters. Okay, so just to show you what it is that I'm seeing, I've clicked from the home screen, which you see here. You can see all the axes aren't ready yet because we haven't chosen our start and end points. I basically selected an axis, so I'll select Z, and then up here, this button that says Z distance, I've selected Z distance, and it brings up a keypad, and that's where I enter my value. And I enter the same units and same number as is in that table. You just hit the red arrow to return, and now what we want to do is now set up our forward and back and side to side and up and down position. So, x-axis. What we're going to do is move back to our EOS remote utility. This is where we set up our focus stacking. So I'm going to move the camera so that I can just start to see the phone in the background coming into focus. That's right there. That's going to be my start point. So I'm going to select start, and it's going to turn green once it's selected. Now I need to select the end points. I'm going to press the down arrow. That's going to move the camera back away from the sample. And what I'm going to search for is the top of these pin heads, because I know that the pin heads are above all of the specimens. We don't need to actually go right up to it, but somewhere close is going to be good. Okay, same thing. I'm now going to select my end position, and that's my x-axis completely set up. Now what we need to do is set up our y and our z axes. So I'm going to go home again. Y-axis is translation from left to right. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to move our camera all the way over here to the left until we're seeing the border. You can see that it's sort of wobbling side to side. It's going to do that because the motion right now is set a little abrasive so that we can actually move pretty quickly on setup. However, that wobble is actually going to be non-existent when we're shooting because the system is going to have time to settle and the motion isn't going to necessarily be as fast or as abrasive, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So that'll be our end position, left to right. So that's set. Again, both of those are going to be lit up green, indicating that the y-axis is complete. Now we need to set up our z-axis. Now the z-axis, what we're going to be doing is focusing on the bottom, and then we're going to let the box lower until eventually we're focused on the top. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring the box up. You'll hear it click a little bit. That's the cable of the tool holder going back into its housing. Okay, there's the lower right hand corner. We're focused on that because we're going to start from bottom and work our way up. That's going to be our start position. Now we're going to move the box down until the camera is seeing the upper right hand corner. So that's right there. So you see how that works? The camera's staying along one fixed axis, but the box is going to be moving up and down. That also protects your sample. You don't have to move your box left and right and make it top heavy. So now we're going to select end. And what we're going to see is a screen where all of our axes are ready. We have our X, Y, Z axes are all ready. So we're going to notice that on the X-axis we're taking 5 photos at 9.6 millimeters. The Y-axis, 5 moves, and it says 6.612 millimeters, but we know that we have done a little bit of math to reach that number. So really, again, just to recap, that number, if you want to get back to the total distance at which the camera is actually going to be moving, what you'll want to do is multiply that number by 14.52, and then that is going to give you a number that's 20% overlap. So that's actually going to be the actual translational value. So just so everybody knows, that's, again, kind of just maybe just rewatch the prior video to refresh your memory on how we arrived at those numbers. But that's going to give you a nice idea. Okay, last thing we need to do, we're going to turn our camera back to manual mode and set up the camera's settings. But either way, we're looking for the M value. There's our M. Okay. So if you notice, some of my settings are already preset correctly. 1/100 is going to be exactly the exposure you use. That doesn't change. I told everybody here that I'm using an f11 value to speed up the process, but again, I recommend that f8 is used. And the color temperature is the only other important thing. This might be set to auto white balance when you first set up your camera. Make sure that it's not on auto white balance. You don't want the colors changing on you between images. Manually set the color temperature to a value of about 5200. You also want to make sure that your directory is set up. So I have a folder that's already been created on my desktop within African Lepidoptera. So African Lepidoptera is in a destination folder on a directory called video tutorials, which I actually have in an external hard drive. So this is my Seagate external, down here under video tutorials, and then African Lepidoptera. And my images are going to be created, they're going to be stored into a subfolder in here. So I'm going to press OK and press OK. That's how I know my images are going to the right place. Okay, so I'm going to close live view. I know that my flashes are already turned on. They're on 1/16th power. Never shoot them in auto. You always want to have them in manual mode. And I'm going to go back to our desktop 3 where our settings are. And you'll notice all the settings are already preset here for you. So 35 centimeters is where we are. Camera shutter 1/100. Aperture is at f8, but remember we're shooting at f11, so we're going to have to adjust these numbers slightly. So that just means that the ISO is probably going to be a higher value, closer to 1600, but that's the only value that's going to change. Otherwise, all your camera settings are here in the table for you. Okay, so remember, ISO right now is at 125. We know we're going to need more light intensity because we have the aperture and the lens closed so much. I'm going to click on Other Functions, Quick Preview. This is going to allow me to see a test image. And lastly, I just want to open up the destination folder. So that's that external hard drive on my desktop, video tutorials, and I just want to show everybody how a folder is going to be created. So here's the African Lepidoptera folder. What I'm going to do is take a test image right now, and you'll see a new folder has been created. Inside that folder is my test image. And the lighting on this actually looks pretty decent, but I do want maybe a little bit more light, so what I'm going to do is maybe take the ISO up to 1600. You can see how that brightened things. I can also try and move the flashes closer to the sample if I want things a little bit brighter. Might actually just take this up to 2000. And even brighter. So now we just want to go ahead, we're going to delete our test shots. And from here, the next step is simply to press start on the controller box. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap start, and now you're going to see everything move into position. So we have our insect box raising to the starting point, which is the lower corner. We're going to have our camera move all the way over here to the left, and it's going to focus and settle on the left-hand side, and then it's going to move right as it captures images. On its first move, I might just go ahead and help it stabilize, but it's going to take a minute anyways and stabilize itself. And then all I'm going to do is let this run. I also just want to show a few shots as it's being taken. You can see the camera is going to move. Focus on this image here and take a look that as the focal plane is moving through the specimens that we see here, the specimens are largely in the exact same area relative to where they need to be. Nothing is being moved too dramatically, nothing is being moved abrasively, there's no left to right, side to side sway, there's no up and down, side to side sway. Okay, so now we're going to actually move on to our next point. I also just want to take a picture of the screen. This is going to show you how many images and how long it's going to take in order to capture these images. So here at F11, it's going to take 24 minutes to scan this entire box. Focal planes, if you are focus stacking, obviously it takes a little longer. If you didn't want to focus stack and you just wanted a good quality image of the box, you can actually turn the focus stacking function off, just do panoramic imagery. You can get great images that way as well. So overall, that's exactly the process that you're going to be taking in order to capture images. I'm going to let this run, and the next video that we have is going to be showing everybody what we're going to do in terms of post-processing, how we merge the image, and how we look at the image. What I might also do is potentially make a video where the camera is a little bit more at an oblique angle. That way perhaps we can try and capture some more of the label data, which also provides very valuable information. But again, thanks for watching the video, and I hope that the system proves useful for those interested in purchasing it. It's available at macroscopicsolutions.com. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at mark@macroscopicsolutions.com. So again, let's go ahead. We'll stay tuned for the next video in order to build the image. Thank you.